Yeah, revolutionary greetings to you all, comrades. This is actually the CSG Pan-African Reading Club. Initially, we used to call it the Pan-African Reading Club, and you must also be conscious that the CSG, which is the Consciencism Study Group, is actually a project of the Kwame Nkrumah Trust. So the Kwame Nkrumah Trust is the mother body, but we are an ideological and educational wing of the Kwame Nkrumah Trust. So we host 3 sessions in a week, which is the Pan-African Reading Club, which also has what we call the Pan-African Library. Our library is on Telegram, and we have close to over 8,000 soft copy books. These are books written by the Blacks or about Africa. We have our Thursday main philosophical class. Actually, it's the main class that gave birth to all these classes. And we look at the philosophy and ideology by Kwame Nkrumah called the Consciencism. We have been doing that for the last 4 years, and we are actually in chapter 4. Then you have a Saturday, which is dedicated to the unification of Africa. We discuss topics about economics, development, with the aim of a unified Africa approach. So those are the few projects we are having. And then we still do have open sessions sometimes where we admit various programs in our midst. So thank you very much. And greetings to all members who are already with us here. I believe that you are all fine. Sister Tapua, Brother Samon, Brother Koko, Brother Samuel, and Sister Eda, who is joining us right now. So revolutionary greetings to all of you, and permit me to formally welcome you to our session for today. Our reading will be done by Sister Tapua, who will read for us, and I'll be guiding the pace of our reading. Then we will be sharing our think on that. This book is written by Dr. George Aiti. We have been reviewing it for the last almost 1 year now, and we always meet every day, and all our recordings are posted on our YouTube channel. So please, Sister Tapua, may you please do an honor to read for us.
Okay, my pleasure. Yes. The title is How the West Can Get It Right. The West should decide whether to fight dictators or to do business with them. If it chooses to fight dictators, it can do so in 2 general ways. The first is to cause no more harm, akin to the Hippocratic oath medical doctors are required to take to uphold ethical standards. If a doctor chooses to treat a patient, he or she must ensure that the treatment does not make the patient's condition worse. If it does, the treatment must be stopped. Similarly, there are several treatments the West must stop dispensing to the developing countries. The second way the West can help is by pursuing a few proactive policies or programs that are therapeutic.
Sister Tapua, yeah, you proceed with the don'ts. But first of all, because the don'ts get now to the other side. But of course, yeah, proceed with the don'ts, because the title is then listing some of them. So proceed with the don'ts, then once we discuss unitary state system, we can come back and then discuss the entire text you've read. So please proceed.
Okay, right. The don'ts. The bad medicines the West should stop dispensing to developing countries include the following: the unitary state system. This system, which concentrates power and centralizes decision-making, trends towards dictatorship. In developing countries with diverse ethnic minorities, the system always leads to despotism and the persecution of minority groups. Developing countries should be encouraged to move towards more decentralized political structures. The Western-style multi-party majority vote. Winner takes
Portia, hold on.
all.
Sister Portia, hold on. I've realized the second one is the second subtitle.
All right.
So probably we'll take two subtitles. So first of all, let's have anybody who has a comment on this. So either we move page by page, we don't move too far. So let's look at this one page on how the West can get it right. Any of the comment that have been shared by Dr. Georgia Itia, can somebody, or is there anybody who would like to react to any part of that statement? Anybody want to react to any part of the statement so far? Let me see by hand. Anybody want to react on anything, Sister
Yes,
Tapua
I
has read so
do.
far?
I was just thinking maybe someone else could comment before I come in.
Why did you say it's a different topic? It sounds like how the West can get it right is the main title, and then there are all of these, the dons. So the dons will be a subtitle under how the West can get it right. And then the unitary state are some of those which fall under the dons.
No,
So
but the Koko, I realized they are listed so many. There are almost 8 of them, which I didn't want us to lose the track that we go 8 and then we come say what's the comment in the entire almost 8 or 6 of them, you see. So I wanted us to move with all of them at least in some pace slowly as we move down, because they are too much. They are around 6 or 7, and that's almost some other serious pages. So I want us to maybe move down by down, because then in each point they are raising, maybe we can say, is this working? What makes sense here? Is it right or not? Something like that. Then we move slow. We move by our pace rather than going almost 8 of them or 6 of them, then come back and start discussing all of them. It might be challenging.
is that 8 all under the dons?
Now,
Or
under the dons, there's the unitary system. There's the Western take it all. There's leader center approach. There's there was another one here. There's a Western brokered peace accord. That's 4. And then there's another one, I think. There's government of national unity. And then there's I think that was the last one. The last one. So there are 5.
Yes. And I'm thinking if we discuss one at a time, then we don't lose track of what that one is. Because if taking 2 or 3 might be too much. But if we take one don't, discuss it and go on to the next don't.
Okay. No, I don't have a hard feeling against any of the approach that we take.
Okay.
So if I'm the only one who has 4, go through all them, the 5 of them, and I'm in the minority, I'm happy for us to follow what you guys are saying, given also the time.
Yeah, Brother Koko, you're not in minority. But I think it's not a must everybody comment on some of the sections. Just that if there's anything interesting you want to comment on, then we move in that pace, so that by the time we're finishing the last one in the same order. But that's okay. Did you want to say something?
Not really.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'm pointing at 2 things as Sister Tapua will be coming in. One is this first statement that the West should decide whether to fight a dictator or to do business with them. That's very interesting. And I don't know if they have been actually having a line of fighting them or doing business. And I don't know what that fighting them will look like. How the West then will fight those dictators in whatever format they are, because most of the so-called dictators, even in Africa, are actually friends of the West. And that's why sometimes they became dictators to us, because then they are basically sometimes under the command of the West, you see. So they don't listen to us as the citizens. And that's why we feel they're dictating on us, you see. So they don't listen on what you want. When you say we don't want finance bill, they don't listen to that. And then when you say do business with them, is very interesting. So these are 2 fights: fight them or do business with them. It's like fight them or join them. But you see, the dictatorship as well in some part of the Africa, you realize that the West even manipulate the process of even getting that leader who then becomes a dictator. So they groom them most of the time. They ensure they pass elections. the so-called ballot elections, and then they ensure that they listen to them. So it's very interesting how even the author now bring the example of the doctors. I don't know if there was a doctor here, maybe they could be offended because they call it hypocritical oath medical doctors take. I don't know if it's been hypocritical, but in some
No,
It's
instances,
Hippocratic.
Hippocratic, brother. It's
oh,
not the same as
hypocritic. Oh,
hypocritical.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I was getting hypocritical. So Hippocratic standard. And I know if doctors take that oath sometimes, I will call it hypocritical because at the end of the day, they say that they want to save life, but then if you don't have money, they will not save your life. So sometimes that's their command. So I'll call it hypocritical a bit because their command of doctors is to save life. That's the first thing sometimes they do commit to, that they'll save life. But when you look at during COVID, for example, you get to hospitals, you are looking for oxygen. They say if you haven't deposited the money, there's no oxygen for you. So you die. And that's what they do. So then money, which maybe we call of capitalism element, has also actually overtaken that Hippocratic oath. Because then it's not about saving life. It's about making money fast. So it's very interesting. And that links with even the business. So it's about doctors doing business rather than actually helping save life. Then another thing I wanted to point out is he called them now the bad medicine in the first element. I actually agree with the Dr. Eti on decentralizing political structures. Like
Sorry, before you
not in
go
the
on,
okay, please.
No, I was just
Come in.
thinking. I would like to comment on that introduction there.
So please proceed.
Yes. I'm finding it very paternalistic and overbearing because the assumption here is Africa is the patient. Before we even go to dictators, it's like Africa has to be treated because we are suffering from something. And it's just assuming that the West has the answers that we need. And the West must react in a particular way to the stance that Africa takes. Yes, whilst there might be dictators, but his attitude to Africa and African problems is a challenge here. Or rather, his attitude to the African challenge is a problem. Because he fails to understand the underlying cause for dictators, like Comrade Pigeon has said. It's economic. It's them manipulating Africa to get what they need. So even with the Hippocratic oath,
Sister Tapua.
there's no way. Sorry?
So is it that they are the cause who will now give the treatment in this context?
Exactly. It's like they've bewitched us and then they have to come up with the treatment. Whilst they've bewitched us for a reason, so that they exploit us. And should they therefore be the ones dispensing the medication? No, they've got ulterior motive. And therefore, they cannot, and we cannot be treated by them.
That's very strong.
Yes, I think he's just trying to sanitize the whole thing by talking about the Hippocratic oath. Because
Okay.
he's saying they have the knowledge of what we should do, and yet they are the very reason why we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves in.
So Dr. Eti is treating Africa as inert.
Yes.
Very interesting. Brother Koko, I see your hand is up. Sister Tapua, maybe I'll come up to you back maybe sometime.
No, that's fine.
Please come
Thank
in.
you.
Please come in, Brother Koko.
I knew that wouldn't have escaped Sister Tapua because of who she is and who we are in here. The one thing which I want to add to her observations is that Imhotep came before Hippocrates. Hippocrates learned from Egypt. Imhotep is 2,000 years older than Hippocrates. But because the West see ancient Greek civilization as the founding block for everything that they do, they have taken that to the world. And people like Aichi, who hasn't learned about ancient African history, doesn't understand ancient African ways of doing things, he still thinks Africa is bereft of knowledge or education.
Mm.
So that issue, you should notice that the worst thing anyone can do is to actually hate what is yours. Is the worst kind of miseducation that you can ever get. And we see it in that introduction there by Aite. What Sister Tapua has said here is actually bang on because he is looking up to the West. He sees the West as holding all the cards, all the solutions, everything that Africa needs. It's like they hold the key, and without the West, Africa cannot go anywhere. So, in short, let me see. He is saying to the West, come and colonize us again. Do you see it? He's saying, come and colonize us again. You haven't done a good job in colonizing us, or you have colonized us, but we are getting out of hand now. So come back and recolonize us. Let me leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brother Koko, for coming in. Brother Simon, please come in.
Yes, I was just like listening. I'm not sure my perspective from the perspective of this one. Yes, this perspective that I'm getting from this writer or author, when we are talking about dictator, I'm not sure what was the definition given to a dictator according to the author. Yes, a dictator, according to the ancient African way of doing things, anyone who serves his people and not the master is referred to as a dictator by the West. Anyone who serves the West or the master and do not serve his people is not a dictator. That's the definition from the West. So when we are saying that, so you find in Africa, the resources that we have to be plunged or taken out of Africa. Anybody who resists the resource going out or who limit the resource going out is a dictator according to the West. Because he is dictating how much the West should take or how much the West should take or should exploit or extract from Africa or from Africa. So that's the definition how the dictator comes in. And according to this definition, any Western leaders, however they act, whenever they act, there is no dictator from the Western leaders. The dictators are only from the African leaders and some Asian leaders. Not all Asian leaders, but some Asian leaders. So that's how the definition of dictator comes. Then from this writing, it is now being taken that when you want to treat somebody, an oath, when somebody has an oath, Like Brother Pigbeam said, if the doctor takes an oath, yes, the doctor will have an oath to treat the patient, but whatever treatment which comes, whatever equipment which he has to use is not at the control of the doctor. So somebody is controlling the medicine that comes, somebody is controlling the equipment that the doctor is using. But if all is for the doctor's use, then the doctor will have to do as per his or her oath that he have taken. But that is not what is there, because it's all controlled so that somebody will find a blame and then will elaborate so that you do not at your will, but at the pace which is set or at the standard which is placed on. So you find from there, when a doctor is seeing that the medicine given is improving the patient, that medicine is okay. When the medicine is not improving the patient, then that should be stopped. But the doctor has no the power of the source where the medicine is coming. So whenever he said the medicine should continue to come, but when the source feels no, we should stop the medicine going, then the medicine will not come. The patient will not receive the medicine. So the patient will not recover, remain in a certain state, because the pipeline of supply of the medicine or the required treatment is cut, even if those who are there willing to continue or give their services. So that's how I have seen it. Even when we go to the first don'ts that we have read there, it also tries to ensure that the power that they have is also a dictatorship, because when you are a leader and you don't have a final say of what you should do for your people that you are leading, and you are taking that orders from that, then at the end of the day you are a dictator. So that's the predicament that we have in Africa. And that's the predicament that is also in some of the Asian countries. So this is also in some of the South American countries. So that's the predicament that we find in Africa mostly because of that, because dictatorship is labeled according to what that person is, how loyal that person is to a certain Western system or to a certain Western authority which is pushing or guiding that person. So that is how I'm seeing the author trying to put it, but the author is not putting it clearly. I'm not sure whether the definition of the dictator have been said before or have been said, but I've put the definition of a dictator the way I'm thinking about it, how it comes from the Western perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Simon. Thank you very much, Jan, for that. Yeah, I know I want us to have this conversation moving smoothly. So as we transition to the second subheading, as we either somebody come in to join the first and the second, I want us to flow in that order. Sister Tapua?
Before we go on, I'm thinking, because we are for the unification and development of Africa, we need to see that introduction in that context. The example that he is given, for me, does a disservice to the medical profession, because a patient brings themselves to the doctor. They are not coerced. They are not forced. And the healing process is based on consensus. It's based on the patient accepting the treatment. But I don't see that here. In fact, what I see is the things that we need to deal with as Africans. that we should not put the West on a pedestal and expect them to be giving us a solution to our problems. Because for a start, Haiti does not define how we've become patients. Because to be a patient, for example, Western medicine measures things. Western medicine agrees that a human being is made up of this, their gut must work this way, and everything else. And what he is saying here is they're taking Western perspective of how a human being must function and treating us. He's giving them the authority to treat us without us having gone to them. Because, for example, Traore is regarded as a dictator. But to deal with people who are trying to prescribe medicine for you, which you have not asked for, you need to be a strong person and to stand up for what is right for your people, because we know what the ulterior motive is. Therefore, if we're going to be thinking about the unification and development of Africa, we need to understand that the answer to our problem is here. The West treats us as a patient, and the West treats us for their advantage, for their standards, for them to continue to extract things from us. And I think we need to stop that. So when he says here, there are several, in quotation marks, treatments the West must stop dispensing to the developing countries. I think we should say the West must stop causing the problems, not just dispensing medication. They know the cause. Doctors know the cause of an ailment, and they're not being truthful in acknowledging that they are the reason why we are where we are. And the second one, they say the second one the West can help is by pursuing, I mean, that's so paternalistic. A few proactive policies, just a few. Who's defining proactive here? Or programs that are therapeutic?
They must be therapeutic.
Yes, but if they're therapeutic, it means they've been tried elsewhere. In Western medicine, you just don't give someone a tablet. They have to go through a process, or so they tell us, of standardizing things, of measuring things. So who has decided what is therapeutic for us? When in actual fact, what is therapeutic is that which paralyzes us so that they continue to extract when we're dosed and drugged. I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
No, let the conversation flow. Let's get. Yes? Is somebody coming? Did I hear somebody? Okay. Let's the conversation flow. Let's tie it to the second paragraph, please, so that we proceed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Koko?
we can do that. We can do that.
Yeah. Now, in the second paragraph, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, before you do that, I like us to remember why the West is in this story here. It looks like it's taken for granted that the West has to be part of the furniture in Africa.
Yeah.
Who gave them that mandate? Why should they rule over us? Why should the West be the first port of call for Haiti? He said defeating the dictators. But this is not fighting about the dictators. Now, this is another invasion. As I said again, going back to what I said, he is calling for a recolonization of Africa. So, someone said they had done such a good job at colonizing us that now we are colonizing ourselves. It's exactly what they said when there was a black boy who was murdered, I think, in Minnesota. by black officers. They were all black officers. And somebody said, how is that racism? Tell me, how is that racism? Because this guy has been killed by black police officers. An expert who answered that, he said, now we have reached a stage where racism is so damn internalized in us that it even happens without the white man in the room.
But the Koko.
This is the story. This is the story. Yes, brother.
But do this mentality tie to what our brother from Uganda has been pushing?
Yes, brother. That is
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Typically, yes.
Because when he says that we should thank them for colonization because they developed Africa,
Imagine.
and the same context that was being said with that sister from then German, Britain, the former member of parliament, that they should not repay for whatever reparation because they developed us. And that we should thank them for infrastructures that they gave us.
Yes, it's the same thing. And please, what she's saying there is what the white people believe, because they have been taught that. They've been taught that they went to Africa because they were going to civilize Africans. So that is the narrative that has been passed around the white communities. And they don't understand why we are complaining about being colonized or being enslaved when we have benefited so much.
Now, this then
continue what that people. Sister Tapua was just explaining.
Now, I'm saying this now is at the heart of what Consciencism is now talking about in chapter 4. The perceiving of matter, which in this case is Africa, as being inert, the need for external push, the need for whatever. Like you treat us as if we are sick. Well, you're not sick. Who said you're sick? And if you are sick, is it the disease caused by you? And you want us to trust you as now the doctor who will save us from the sickness you've caused. And secondly, why are you healthy and you are sick? Is it because you made us sick so that you're healthy? And do you think that you're not able to heal ourselves? That you must come in to prescribe your therapy and policies? Policies which failed in 1980s during the so-called IMF reforms, which failed. Policies that have caused my fellow generations to die in the street.
They didn't fail, brother. They didn't fail.
No, it depends on where do you look at it.
Exactly. That is what I want to remind you. Yeah.
No, to us, you see, I'm not speaking for them. To us, it failed. To them, it was successful because the end goal was not the same. So the output was not the same. All of us did not look at the same output, you see. Their output was not the output we expected, you see.
Exactly.
And their input was for their own intention. So, you see, when people say that Africa has failed, as you ask the same question, is to who? And when they say that Africa is successful, then it's to who? Which angle are you looking at this? But I want to tie it to Brother Kwame and Brother Koko because the conversation was on the unitary state systems. And you see, where I have an issue, and we're coming from the consciousness where we're talking about the unification of Africa. One is that, yes, we envision a united Africa. But even in our traditional setup systems, the chief or the king, as much as he had ultimate power, or she had ultimate power, but that power was through some organs. There were council of elders. There were so many people. So the king could not just wake up in the morning and say, yes, today we are done. There was a group of council of elders who could come together, who could then be acting like an adversary committee to the king. The problem that comes in is that I don't think that even having a unitary president makes one a dictator. Because the intention to govern perfectly, for example, in Kenya here we have 43 nationalities. Now from a Luo community, for example, Kenyan politics has been led by two communities, the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu. For the last 63 years, they have been presidents. But because some leaders from such community have failed to think beyond their nationality when they're in power, They make other community push for the decentralization. So we want power close to us where we can control. But I always say that's a failure of personal leadership, you see? Because when I'm from the Luo nationality and I happen to be the next president of this country, it is in the approach of being a conscious Pan-African things from the unification angle. It is my responsibility to ensure that each community in my country get fair and equal development. Unlike other people will say, okay, because I come from this nationality, out of the 43 nationality, like what some of President Ruto is doing and other people have done, is that in appointment, I'll appoint all my nationalities. In development, I'll try all development, major development, go to my nationality. You forget that the resources and the revenues that then run a government is from every nationality. In fact, when you're paying tax, you're not asking your nationality. You pay tax as a citizen. But when it comes to development, then you do this. Now, the problem with this decentralization and the fear we might also meet is that, like in Kenya context, when we devolve national government into devolved units, now we have 47 of them, the best we did was to devolve in competence and leadership. Because the problem did not end. Now, even in the so-called county level, they are, even if you're from the same nationality, they are now what you call clans or community. So when the governor comes from this clan, they'll end up appointing people of their clan. When the government comes from this village, they'll end up pushing them into their village. This individualistic and selfish thinking is not us. But as we all know, it has been passed through by some of us. Yes, no nationality. If you are thinking on our philosophical angle as consciousness study group, no nationality, no gender, no tribe or whatever you call it, no region, whatever, is more important than them. And an unconscious leader from consciousness angle is a leader who see each person equal and give development and that egalitarian and fair treatment to all. But here we have leaders who are unconscious and have been driven by the Western influence of their styling of education. So they come out to be more individualistic as Western are. Because individualism is more on their side than on our side. They even, there's sometimes, we read sometimes back that they were even surprised that when they ask, this land belongs to you, and they will say, they don't know. The land belongs to everyone, or in the community, they're like, who is everyone? Surprise. So let me get to Sister Ada, first of all. I know the three hands are up. Sister Ada, I think this is your first or second time or third time joining us. Do you have anything to comment so far on this?
It's my first time, but I think what I find interesting is that you're all focusing on the fact that this man is not necessary for Africa, even though he's writing the book, because it does sound like he is encouraging the West. But it also reminded me of the fact that a long time, well, it must be, it's probably about 20 years ago, doctors had to be stopped from allowing people who sold drugs to come into their office and encourage them to market such and such a drug. Because they'll give them pens or they'll give them whatever. They'll give them all sorts of little things, and they had to be stopped because it just meant that they weren't necessarily doing what was right for their patients, but they were encouraging marketing of drugs. So, I remembered that and I thought, oh, yes. And I'm also remembering the fact that even recently, my doctors, I had to go to the doctors to ask for something for work. And they actually wrote on whatever letter they had given me to give them that I had refused medication. And I'm thinking, what? Why are you telling my work something like this? And why is it even a record that, I may have said I wouldn't take such and such, and they write it down, they sort of think they're, what's the word? They sort of think that they're making sure that it is written. It's not them. They've tried to push such and such a drug on me, and I've said no or whatever. And so I don't think that at all times people are necessary in your best interest. Yes, there might be some doctors who will, they would consider they wouldn't do such a thing as to tell an employer something that is on your medical records. I mean, I was stunned. So I don't think that people are always in your camp, even though they're meant to be, is all I can say. And I think that what we've read so far um, doesn't put the author in the camp of um, seeking African development.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you. Thank you, Sister. I feel most welcome. You can see we have been more inspired by the Thursday's reading. So we are reading from an angle of philosophical grounding a bit. So our thinking may be a bit different, but at least we are. Nkrumah's help us also to look at widen our angle a bit in terms of how we look at things as well. Not that we didn't have that thinking. Brother Simon, your hand was up first before Sister Tapua. Do you want to come in?
Yes, I wanted to just talk about the situation when we were talking about dictators. In Africa, whoever, any leader in Africa who wants to fight or who wants to promote unification of Africans is labeled a dictator. And it's very unfortunate that the African leaders, they normally don't want to support each other in cases so that they have solidarity, which is the same scenario with some Asian leaders. Because when you see from our past and we go to present, the past when we have people like Muammar Gaddafi, the Libyan leader, who wanted the unification of Africa and who wanted to ensure that Africa is self-sufficient in terms of telecommunication, and who was the first to pay for the satellite for the African countries so that we can have our own and unify ourselves. But when the West saw that, they labeled him a dictator and they said they don't want him. Then when he went to Libya, his own country, he wanted to make sure that the desert is green, and nobody wanted to talk about the greening of the desert that he has done for his people. But instead, they wanted to see at how best the Libyans cannot benefit from their oil, and they can tap the oil from Libya and transport the oil to the West at no cost, at no Libya's benefits. So because Muammar Gaddafi was resisting that, then he was labeled a dictator, and at the end he was eliminated, and no one wanted Africa to unify, and to them that was a step to stop the unification of Africa. So you find this has been an ongoing, and it's still currently going. The same example can also come to Zimbabwe, where I am. You find in Zimbabwe, during the colonial system and during the independence agreement, they agreed when the people went for war of liberation. They went for a war of liberation because we wanted our land back. That was the main issue, that we want our land back. And the agreement was, let's give us 10 years, then we'll give you your land back. And after 10 years, the whites, they did not want to give the land back because they said, no, you don't have the money to buy. Then they were now backtracking. Then when we proceed to put more pressure, the local people, and then the president by then was Robert Mugabe, when he pushed for the land reform and everybody to just go on and take up our land, which was the promise why the people went for the liberation struggle, he was labeled a dictator when people take up their land. So you find the moment you empower your own people and you make sure that they don't extract much, because they knew from the land they were extracting and taking whatever they wanted to put it out. Then you are labeled a dictator. And then at the end, because they have the autonomous treatment, they can, instead of stopping the treatment, they will even treat you to make sure that they eliminate you during the treatment, which is what was happening in most African countries. And that's why you find most those African leaders who want unification of Africa are eliminated and are termed dictators. The same currently now, which is happening in Asia with Iran, Palestine, and the other countries there. The leaders there, they are labeled a dictator, but no one is labeling the American leader a dictator, because he's just dictating what to be done. And whoever he says is a dictator, everybody wants to agree, and it tries. Only now that some countries are seeing it and they are starting to resist, to cooperate, and to resist, to assist. So that you find currently, when you look at the situation with Iran, when Iran was forced to give out his oil and also to give out his all manufacturing plants, they refused. And when they refused to sign that agreement, then the leader said to be a dictator. Then now you find the war have escalated. But when America said we are controlling the passage of the ships, and we are making all the ships carrying that to pay, no one is saying they are dictators, because they are dictating whatever treatment comes wherever, or whatever treatment is going wherever. To them, they are okay. They can withdraw. They can stop the machinery. They can stop the treatment at any time. Then they can try to do whatever they want. So this is the scenario that we have in Africa. And this have retarded unification of Africa. And this is now also another stumbling block that the leaders of Africa cannot unify, because the moment they unify, the West, they will try by all means to go inside, bring a lot of money, which we can say bring a lot of medicine, which does not treat the exact ailment which the patient is suffering from. And this example is what happened in South Africa currently. You find they have a lot of funding which comes to South Africa to incite the South African to fight other Africans out, so that unification of Africa becomes impossible, so that the African countries, they have conflict amongst themselves, and to promote, so that they divert attention and they continue to plunder resources from Africa, because the African are fighting each other. They see that there was a door of unification, so they try to plant that, so that when there is treatment, they will ensure that that treatment which is coming will not reduce the ailment, but will continue to give them the advantage, so that they continue to be at an upper end. So this is what I can say from the perspective of unification of Africa, from what is happening currently and what have been happening. And this is why the West always have a say. And if the West stop and give African that mandate to continue and also decide without them influencing by extracting resources, and this is why the war in Congo is not stopping, because they don't want to stop extracting resources. You find now in Africa, in Congo, there are more flights going and coming out of Congo from the eastern region, where there is a lot of minerals, than ever before. And these flights, they are coming up. And now I find there are more than 5 or 10 flights coming in and coming out. But that is, no one is talking about it, and no one would want to say anything about it, because that is how they are trying to ensure that the treatment is ongoing to them, but that is for the destruction of the African resources, for the destruction of the African peace, and also destruction of African unification, because the conflict will continue. Thank you. I will rest my case for now.
Thank you, Sister Tapua. Please, thank you. Sister Tapua, please go ahead. Sister Tapua, can you hear me? Please go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I had muted myself. Firstly, I think what comes out of this particular section on the unitary system, for me, Haiti is showing that he's acknowledging, for example, that the prescription that was given of a unitary system is not working. Because in the African context, what we have is an inherited system. Unfortunately, the inherited system of government was meant to extract from the people and to leave very little for the people to share. So we shouldn't be surprised that he is saying we need to change the unitary system, which in itself would undermine the neocolonial structures. Because the colonial systems themselves were centralized in order to control, in order to keep control. And they thrived on conflict between the different groups. So when they're talking there of persecution of minority groups, persecution was the modus operandi of the colonialists. And just like we've seen in South Africa, where they say Abahambe to one group, it then degenerates. In other words, you've learned a skill of how to depose others from power, and you start using it at every level. I'm not surprised it's going to be used in the homes by some people who say, oh, find your way, because I need my space. So that is where the problem is. And he is also being naive in thinking that the West does not benefit from the despotism and the dictatorship, and therefore they would like us to change our system of governance, which we've always had. So decentralization leads to loss of control by the neocolonialists. And like my brother says, it also is one of the main reasons for the failure of the unification of the African governments. Because we have learned through this colonial governing system that each of the 54 or 56 countries is sovereign. And therefore, to get our leaders to agree to step down and decentralize and come under one major umbrella becomes a challenge. So the conflict, the internal conflict is a result of shortage of resources. I think that's one thing that we need to understand and remember at the forefront. Because part of the medication that we're given is aid, which is deemed to be therapeutic. But it's only given in dosages that make us want more and make us think that our salvation is from those people who have stolen from us. So they steal from us, and then they convince us that we have nothing, and then they start giving us drips and drabs. My heart broke when I saw some Nigerian brothers and sisters with a placard, one, supporting Israel, and two, asking Trump to come and rescue us. I was stunned by that position, because it then shows us that once we don't get the resources that we need, we don't get enough resources. If the cake is too small, then we start developing my backyard and not your backyard. But if we look at the West, where they have an abundance of resources, there's very little of that, because people can stand up for themselves and they can claim a fair share of the cake. But the cake that we have here is very small, and therefore results in conflict, which they want to perpetuate. I'll rest my case for now. Thank you.
Thank you. The cake is not small. It is small because they're eating a big share of our cake. So the remaining one is very small for us to squeeze. Brother Koko, please come in as we bring this to an end.
I would like to pass my thanks to all of you who came tonight, and despite the fewer number of us showing up. But there's something else which I'm starting to recognize. There are those names which appear in certain meetings day in, day out. It's saying there are people who care about Africa, who are determined to develop themselves so they can continue to develop Africa. And I'm saying that because I was with King Simon in another meeting yesterday. And I know he also goes to other stuff. And he is not the only one from One Map Africa. That is why I'm saying this. One Map Africa is big. But you see that there are only a few of us who understand what this liberation is about. So when Sister Tapua said, some Nigerians were asking Trump to come and help them or supporting Israel, I go back to that statement I said before, that the West kind of colonization is a miseducation that we've got. Colonization didn't just come and colonize the land. They colonized the minds. They colonized the religions. They colonized the languages, the history. Okay? So it's a whole package. It's not just one thing. But the reason why I raised my hand is just to remind you that the West holds the sanctions against us in the global south, as they call us. They do whatever they want. And this is what some of our brothers think, are starting to think that is the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. Lots of people are dying because of economic sanctions, and the West don't have the right to do that. The West do not have a right to intervene in Iran. They don't have a right to intervene in Africa. And I have a book here, which I always quote when I get stuck. So given that we only have a small time, can I just quickly read from here and remind you guys what happened here? This is white malice. It's written, it's there for us to read and understand how these people do their stuff. But I doubt that even 1% of Africans will have read this book. Nixon shared his conviction that America should associate with the strong men in Africa. We must recognize, although we cannot say it publicly, he argued to the council, that we need the strong men of Africa on our side. This is Nixon who was saying that. Nixon pushed his argument further. He believed that it would be impossible to stop the process of independence in Africa. It was therefore necessary, he said, not simply to support strong men, but actively, in some cases, to develop military strong men as an offset to communist development of the labor unions. Such a policy ran counter to America's publicly stated commitment to democracy for all nations. But Eisenhower agreed. So this, when it comes to the West, this is like the core West are America. But as you can see here, they were peddling those stormmen ideology. So if Haiti say, don't do unitary systems, those people were the ones who were encouraging that. Let me just stop there. We have evidence that they actively encouraged it as long as it served them. But if it doesn't serve them, as Brother Simon said, they will come in. They manufacture consent to intervene where the stormman is not serving the American interest. Thank you for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Koko, and thank you all. Brother Seko, would you share anything? Sokiri, maybe a word as we bring this to an end, because you've listened a bit to what you say, and it's our tradition that at least somebody share with us something. Brother Sokiri, this is actually... Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. The discussion is really very interesting. I have been so carefully listening, and I really reach level of understanding that we could not be in position to look to the West when we have our problem, because the West, they are in part, I like to say that African states are not really centralized. They are decentralized. They are not united. So I remember one of the famous quote by Napoleon. He said, "Do not interrupt your enemy in case he's making mistake," meaning that let him continue making mistake. It's okay, because mistake work for his own downfall. Now, when we relate that quotation to Africa's situation, the West instead does not like the Africans to do something which is right. They wanted to say that we are disunited. But if in case Africa is coming up with something that can promote their unity, can bring them together, immediately they would jump in and disrupt that scenario. So that, in other words, it is their interest to cease to either they seen as a doctor who really provides solution to African problem, but in reality, it is not. That's why it is in political sciences, they call it a system of neocolonialism after colonial system of administration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Brother Koko, we are ending this, please. Come in.
Sorry, that's the
Brother
legacy hand. But thank you and welcome, brother. So do attend all of our sessions. It's not just this one. There's a Thursday one and a Saturday one.
So thank you very much. I believe I've shared today's link in two groups. The Pan-African Reading Club is having over 76 members. So Brother Sokiri might have been one of that Pan-African Reading Club, which has been Pan-African Library. We encourage that group to be specifically talking about Monday meetings. And thank you, Sister Ida, for finding time on this Monday to be with us. It's very rare. It's very hard to see you around, but we appreciate you. Actually, Sister Ida is one of the few sisters who are the foundation pillar of CSG, having been there when there was only one sister probably, or two sisters probably. Now we have sisters. So thank you very much, Sister Ida, for being in this struggle for this world. Brother Koko, welcome, and thank you as much. Brother Simon also, and Sister Tapua, as always, being here for us. We are trying to restructure this class a bit, and I'll be proposing. I had that proposal in mind probably to put forward the name of Sister Tapua to be the coordinator of this Pan-African Reading Club. But I think that one will put forward as well in the Pan-African Reading Club group, so that we can have a lead sister coordinating this class for us, due to our education and our presence every time. and we'll try to see whether we can have access on anything else so that this class moves smoothly, because we need to be moving to the next books as well. We are having almost a month to finish this, but I'll try my best to see how we can coordinate this. But my proposal was to actually put forward the name of Sister Tapua to members of our class to be the lead coordinator for our Pan-African library. So I know members who do attend our meeting probably next week will have to approve that proposal or discuss anything about it so that we get her in as our coordinator for the Pan-African Reading Club. Sister Amma has been doing a lot in the library, and we must appreciate that. She's been taking serious step in the Pan-African library. And yeah, so we're bringing in more members. So thank you very much, comrades. We will meet again next Monday. We will continue the Western style of winner take it all. And now I believe we'll have time. I don't know what the challenge was about this week's class, but I hope the link worked for some. It had a problem with the others, but I hope we won't encounter this next week. Sister Tapua, you want to say something?
Yes. Just to suggest that I think my brother Koko is very well read and he could take this mentor on. Thank you.
No, that's a direct way to dodge my preposition. We'll discuss that next week. I know Brother Koko also handle a lot of things. So sometimes you might see him not around, sometimes he's not in, but we'll discuss that as we move along. So it's okay for also putting for the name of Brother Koko. So we'll also discuss that in our peace level. Brother Koko has still not brought forward the economics class, but I think Brother Kwame found a way on how to fuse economics in the unification. Knowing that Brother Windhoek is leading the unification project, there's a way on how he decided to fuse this. I'm also very gender sensitive because our unification of Africa project is by Brother, lead coordinated by Brother Welcome. Of course, Sister Portia came forward to help us in the AU ECOSOC thing. And I do coordinate a lot of the Thursday's class. That's what was my background, but we'll discuss that. So thank you very much. Unless there's anybody who has any other burning issue, I want to bring this meeting to an end for today.
Thank
I
you.
tell
Good
Sister Tapua that I'm here. I'll support her. She should not worry. She can do very well. She will do very, very well.
So thank you. So Sister
So,
I
Tapua,
second the motion to have you
Sister
there,
Tapua is
my
the
sister.
chair.
Brother Koko.
Brother Koko is the support mechanism. Brother Koko will provide all the This time round, behind a successful woman will be a man, not behind a successful man be a woman. So thank you, comrades.
All right. Thank you, brothers and
Bye-bye.
sisters.
Have a
Take care.
blessed evening.